groups, so Smile and ECIP. So one thing I noticed in previous years with ECIP is that you guys never have enough time. So I only have a half an hour allotted, but I'm thinking if we could try to get you out there at 8:45, that would give you more time, because really 5 minutes per station is not a lot.
No.
It's not a lot. And I know Donna was upset last year because her group was pretty slow and they didn't make it around.
Yeah.
So if you guys can come down at 8:45, which is actually what we did last year. It was a little hard for some people, but some people might be able to. I'm just looking for feedback before I.
Is this because of the number of
publish
stations
it.
they have?
The turnaround is, I'll say the turnaround is going to be really tight. We're just, I mean, we get into the classrooms at like 8:35.
Okay.
And so if we have to do any kind of,
Well, and bus kids too.
bus kids don't roll in until like 8:50.
But 9 is realistic.
9's a little bit more realistic, especially for like.
Okay. So then another idea is, here's the stations.
Mhm.
If it's too much, why don't you just pick 3 or 4, and that's all I'll set up for you guys.
Okay.
If you guys feel like it was too much, it's too overwhelming, you're upset because you can't get to all of them,
Okay.
then just cut back to me with what everybody suggested were their top 4.
Okay.
Smile is usually fine. You guys have 7 groups, and I'm gonna do 7 stations, and that should be fine. And kindergarten. This is just my field day sneak preview. And what I did is I looked at the times from the fun run, because it seemed to go really well with everybody at the fun run.
It did.
So I just did that. Last year, so we don't have an AIM representative, but last year we had 2 different AIM times, but I felt like they kind of like all being together, so
I can check
I want to
on
touch
with
base
them.
with them. But basically it's the same as it's been most years. You guys all get out there, you start at a station, and you just go around and around and around. I blow the whistle and it's time to rotate. When you're done with all the stations, you go party with the music and have some slush.
And the PTA is already they already have set up the Italian ice station.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Pretty simple. ECIP, we like to go around in groups and stay together in their stations. AIM has told me they want to do free roam. They don't want, it's too hard for them to manage their kids. They love it, so I've modified that. So we just let them go wherever they want for the half an hour.
A buffet.
Basically, yeah.
Right.
But also then I was thinking keep the same colors as Fun Run, because everybody's got the colors. Everybody's
yeah.
got the shirts, so
That's
just do
true.
the same as your Fun Run. And then Smile will have a little bit longer, right? So they'll have their 7 stations, and then kindergarten only has 6 groups, and they'll have their 7 stations. And then
So is it okay if I add on the families newsletter the colors, the same from the fun run?
as
say-
long as the teachers are okay with it.
And say this will be the
Same
colors
colors
for the
as Fun
field
Run
day.
for field day.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's up to you. It's up to you guys.
Oh, I didn't know we were doing colors.
We usually do colors so that you don't lose your kids.
Oh.
Yeah. Usually I have you guys do colors.
They already have. They already
Yeah,
have the
I
shirts.
think most of us have our, well, at least we're,
You had your
Okay.
elephant shirt anyway.
Yeah.
and then
We
I
did.
saw the
We
monkey
saw that.
one.
The monkeys had
and I
one
think
too.
caterpillars had their own.
Oh, did they? I don't know. Yes.
And then I
that's
think
true.
one class just used, didn't one class just use the Let's Get Truckin'?
Yes,
Shirts.
Winter Hill.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I feel like we have our own
Yeah.
color.
Well, I guess what I'll do is I'll probably send an email out to all of Capuano and just look in case I missed anybody, just to double check and see if anyone's got feedback on this.
And I will put that on the staff newsletter also, for them to think about it too, about the colors. Like,
Okay.
what do they think about it?
And
Yeah.
next week we'll circle students.
They run the stations, yep, they'll be there monitoring this, yeah, all your friends will be there, all your little
Oh,
friends.
did you, I talked to, Susan and Johnny
Antoine.
today. I was talking to her about my high school kid, and she said, did you talk to her, or did someone else talk to her?
Me.
Because you talked to her. Some of her kids need like some extra hours.
Oh,
Did you
Won't
talk
they
to
come
her?
to field day?
Well, yeah, she said she was.
She did not contact me.
Okay. I think she was talking to you.
oh, she didn't talk to me about extra
Field
hours,
day?
but I said if the interns want to come, because they
Oh,
don't,
all right.
they're usually not here in June.
I'll just,
Yeah,
I'll email her.
She said, she's like, I'm gonna find out if it's okay if they come, because some of them like miss some days and they need to do extra hours.
Suzanne from the high school, she runs
Yeah.
the child.
Yes.
She's the early
yeah,
childhood
yeah, yeah.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know who she is. I'll email her and see if they want to come. Yeah, that'd be fine. the more the merrier. And then nobody has to change their lunch schedules, and I usually have stuff in the gym in case people need a break and they're, losing their marbles. That is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the other reason Sharon is here is to talk to. Are you done with the field day?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
The
Just
other
get
reason-
back to me with any adjustments you guys want made.
We
Right.
get this.
Yeah, you can keep that.
So
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
going to do it. She has been part of the what's the name of your committee?
The CPT committee. Yeah.
But does it have a name like
The CPT
protocols or whatever? I call it something like that. Anyway.
committee.
So she's part of that committee that meets every Thursday. So as a matter of fact, she's not in that meeting today because she's here for a little bit. So that's why I put everything of hers first, so she
And then I
could
can go
do
to
like a
the-
little introduction. What is it that CPT is gonna look like next year? And if we have any questions, we can present them now. Any questions will be recorded, so we can work on those later.
Perfect. So basically, the PLCs that you guys are all doing, not many other schools are doing them. They don't have the flexibility in their schedule and time. So this every Wednesday from 1 to 2:30 is basically going to be forced PLC time. Some Wednesdays you're going to be free. So a lot of people were confused and they said, what does that change the 2:45 meetings? It doesn't change the 2:45 meetings at all. We still have all of our 2:45 meetings.
So you said, I'm sorry, it'd be 1 to 2, the CPT?
1 to 2:30.
1 to 2, okay.
1 to 2:30. Yeah, or actually it might be end up
And
being
pre-K
like
starts at
1:15
12.
to 2:45 because of travel time.
Yes. And,
Yeah.
So,
So it's a ish. So anytime you have to travel for a 2:45 p.m. meeting, you have educator prep from 1 to 2:30. So you never have to double travel. So Chris Glenn has made the schedule so that if at 2:45 you need to go to a district meeting or you need to go to some other meeting, you have free 1 to 2:30. That's your teacher prep time. And then the other two rotations are a school-based CPT, common planning time, which depending on our agendas, it could be like, oh, the whole school is doing something today, or kindergarten is doing something, Smile is doing something. And then when it's district-based, you're gonna have to get together with groups of like-minded. Like on district days, I'll be with PE people. We're gonna have to find a spot for all the K to meet, all the Smile to meet, all the ECIP to meet.
those models will be meeting here.
Maybe, right?
Most
But
of
like
the time.
after school's using a lot of space, so one of the things the committee is doing is figuring out when those groups get together, how many people are there. And so I'll give you an example. At the Brown, we only have like 2 classrooms with normal sized chairs, like 4th and 5th grade. So like we don't want to host a meeting with all these adults and be like, oh here's our tiny room with little kid chairs in it.
But there will be a difference because next year after school won't be all over the halls. Because
Will they?
Winter Hill classrooms are planned, right? To go back to, is that still the plan?
Absolutely.
Right? So Winter Hill rooms are, we're supposed to recover those rooms. So then after school we'll be able to use those rooms again. So they won't be like all spread. Because the problem this year is that when we had PD in the cafeteria, then they couldn't use the cafeteria, so it became like a little bit of a hassle. But next year that won't happen.
And we're talking about rotating rooms too. So like, for example, if Mr. Yu's room is picked for after school, right, and they need to use his room, it can't be his room every time. So maybe quarter 1, they use Mr. Yu's room. Quarter 2, they use Miss Viola's room. Like we need to do a better job of sharing our rooms, because like I know at the Brown it's the same 3 classrooms that are used the whole time for after school, and so those teachers never have their rooms, and so but that's not like specific to you guys. That's everybody.
Well, we usually will rotate them on a yearly basis.
Yeah, and then there are 4 all district PDs, which is like there's one in October, one in January, one in March, and one in May, and those are when we get together and the district tells us the agenda, like what the whatever it's going through. So basically you rotate 3 things. You rotate individual educator prep, your school-based CPT, and your district-based CPT, which for some of you guys is the same, but for me it's not. For example, like my school-based CPT is depending if I'm at Brown or Capuano, but then my district is with all the PE people.
Right.
So, and then including the all the providers more too, because the providers have sort of been not included in PLCs and like specialists too. So we got to make sure everybody's involved, and it's all educator led. There's not going to be admin in your meetings telling you what to do. It's like up to you guys. You got to go over student data. You gotta plan your next unit. Like it's your time to work with your colleagues. Yeah. The admin's allowed to pop in, and they're allowed to observe and maybe say, oh, I need you guys to work on this at some point. But they can't direct it. They can't tell you what you have to do. It's like, for us, it's during the school day. It's for teachers to get better at teacher stuff.
Our PLCs this year, they're mostly teacher-led, right?
Yeah.
I would like to think.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, you're gonna need some guidance from admin. At
Like
some
we
point.
come and sit, but it's just if they need us. Like mostly, like Julie runs that meeting.
Yeah.
I just sit and look at her.
Yeah, it won't be much different than PLC, but you guys are ahead of the game. This school's been doing PLCs, and a lot of other schools just don't have the time. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, I sent that explanation when I was talking about the posting for next year, because basically the ILT
It's gonna
and
grow.
PLC meeting and PLC positions are going to merge into one. So
I
it's
feel
like what you have been doing this year, because you are ILT and PLC.
But I feel like that's, I wanted to say, you have Chris is doing like those 30-minute.
The Zoom
I went to
sessions.
the first, I'm on that other thing,
Uh-huh.
but he had one this week too.
Uh-huh.
Was he on like 2 more?
Tuesday, yeah. He had one. No, it was Tuesday.
If anybody wants
I
to
think the
work
next
with
one is the
us, it's
17th. right?
They're just like Q&A.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I feel like people are upset about is they thought there wasn't going to be 2:45 meetings with all this, and we're like, it's totally
I thought they
separate.
were not going to be 2:45.
Yeah,
They
they
thought
thought
that's what we
2:45 p.m. Meetings are going to be gone, but they are not.
But
That
the thing that
is,
people complain most of the time is like, oh, they're taking me out of the classroom so many times for meetings. So now those meetings will be happening during those
correct.
times.
Yeah, when it's school based, you can use the 1 to 2:30 to meet with VCBA, or you can meet with speech, or you can meet with people that you don't get a chance to, and you just have to be
Yeah.
organized and set it up ahead of time.
And like the
So
grade level meetings
how-
can happen that time too.
So I'm wondering, and I'm sure the district has already thought about this, or you guys have, but so
Probably
how
not.
does this, okay, maybe, for people who work between buildings
Mm-hmm.
and people
This
who
is
have
our big
split,
thing.
because I think that that's gonna be something that needs to be figured out.
It is. So for our example is like if we have school based and the 4 specialists are in 2 different buildings, we're gonna have to Zoom our meeting, right? Like if me and Laura and Julia and Kayla want to meet, which we never get to meet. Like this is a time that some of these Wednesdays we're gonna meet and we're gonna have to do it over Zoom.
Mhm.
Because you're
So
never in
that-
one building at the same time.
Exactly.
I wasn't thinking about with the like positions, I was thinking like, if you have a social worker who's split between 2 buildings and they need to meet with both teams,
Mm-hmm.
because then they're not,
I think one
because then the
week
next
you'll
one would
schedule
be-
it.
But I'm just thinking,
Mm-hmm.
if there's like a district in between or a different kind of PD in between, then that
Mhm.
means they're actually gonna not be able to see them for like potentially a couple weeks.
So I
So
know.
how-
So you could also use your green one, your educator prep, right? So that's your free time. You could meet with them. You could email them and say,
But then that
hey.
depends on their time.
It does.
Right? And so I just
It
think that.
does.
But if also, I
But when
think,
it's school
But
based,
everybody will have prep on the same, there's a schedule and across the whole city.
Right.
Right, but what I'm saying is they're gonna have to accommodate for that one person who's got a split position.
Yeah.
And like, it just,
so right now what happens is we go to whatever school we're assigned to on the day. So if it's quarter
Oh, okay.
4
Okay, so
and
there
on
is like
Wednesdays I'm at Brown, I go to Brown.
would somebody have the freedom to go in between, like say, there's somebody who's split and then they're just like, hey,
I need
I
to go
actually
over
need
there.
to go over here to, would they
That's
have
the
that
idea.
freedom? Okay,
That's
okay,
the idea.
okay.
Yeah, I need to go to West because I need to check in with this teacher.
So it feels like split positions will have a little bit more flexibility with what they do.
Yeah, the problem with split positions is everybody's really frustrated with the Wednesday schedule at like the Argens in the East.
Yeah.
Here it's not a problem
No,
because it's pretty
no.
small, but like they're trying to figure out how to make the Wednesday schedule with people that
Right.
like split, like
Right,
the East and Argens
right,
have
right.
traveling people in one
Right,
day and
right,
only one
right.
gym.
Right.
but you mentioned something very important, like if somebody has to meet and then they have another meeting that it's needed that day, they can zoom into the other building meeting, and they can be, one place will be virtual, the other place they will be in
Yeah,
person.
or maybe they just work out this kink next year and then there's some
Because-
sort of
yeah.
thing for next year.
Because
Like, I
hopefully the
think
meetings won't
because
be
this is a
that
really
long.
good idea. I think that maybe we're not gonna see all the kinks until we do it for a year anyways.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the
I mean,
first
that's
year.
fine.
And the
yeah.
travel time is gonna be a
Yeah.
nightmare too,
Well,
like
the
trying to
parking,
get across
travel
the
is
city.
The parking is just gonna be
Right.
a nightmare.
Right.
Yeah.
The first year will be trial and error, and then
Mhm.
after the first year, then tweaks will happen, right? I asked.
Yeah, because also, and it's like, we get the timing, like, right, the kids get dismissed at 1. how are you gonna be somewhere at 1:15?
Right,
It's
no,
gonna
no,
be,
it's not
it's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
Are these committees going to continue, or will they dissolve once the CPT starts?
Once it starts, they dissolve, and there's gonna be CPT, leaders, and which will be similar to ILT, and the ILT will grow, and cause you gotta have more people on.
That would be a good
on board
suggestion for Chris, like
disseminating the
to keep like a
information.
committee to see.
He might,
things
there's
that
gonna be
need to-
trainings
need
in
to-
August.
That need to be improved.
They're gonna do the training, so if you're a CPT leader, you'll get paid and do the trainings. Like, there's a group that's working on what a CPT leader needs to know and like what they need to have to be able to like run a group. I mean, you've been doing this a long time, so you know how to run a group, but, you know, some newbies.
Well, when we were in that committee, in that meeting, Chris was saying like, there's like a whole, did some people go to like some outside training and
Mhm.
that's like the steps they want to use, or
Mhm.
that's what he wants
Mhm.
to teach people,
Mhm.
the way to run these meetings. Like,
Mhm.
I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of guidelines on how they want these things run.
Mhm.
It's not gonna be just like come and chat with them.
Right. We have to have some probably work to produce at the end, like what was your agenda?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
did you work on? Type thing.
Yeah.
So I heard the CPT train will be by modules, like asynchronous. Have you heard that?
That's what the people did that did the first wave, like on the committee.
And
I was
who-
not one of
Who were they
those.
trained by, or who ran
This
them?
program,
Harvard.
Was
I
it?
think it was Harvard.
I don't
yeah.
know what group led it, but there was a group that led the training.
If it's, yeah, Chris mentioned that to me. So
I think Lori went to one of them. I think she did one of the trainings.
Alright.
I mean, there's gonna be growing pains.
No, it's a great idea though. I hope it works.
I hope, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I hope it's all figured. I don't mean it like that. I mean, like, I hope that it all gets figured out, because I think once we can, I think I see how like the ILT fits into all of this, and if we can streamline all of the information and everybody's on the same page, then
Yeah, and have more people
it's
in
not
the
gonna-
room disseminating the information.
Right.
So does this mean we no longer have morning meetings? Like,
yeah,
because we'll have this time.
that will happen during those times.
Okay.
The point is like to maximize time that the educator has to work in classroom stuff. That way you don't have to.
And to
kind of
work with
part
other
of your
educators.
learning to
Yeah, I think
be
that's-
in a meeting when you can like prep. in the room.
And it might not be as clear here, but like, for example, at the Brown, first grade teachers never get to see other first grade teachers. So
Right.
they wanna talk about
It's
curriculum.
here
and stuff.
too,
That's why.
kindergarten.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, you
exactly.
don't see other kindergarten teachers, but you see. each
Right,
other.
so kindergarten will be
Yeah.
probably rotating around what buildings, and we talked about like who's gonna host, like maybe we do it alphabetically or something like the Union, like in the first week, A, you go to Argenziano, B, like something like that. We have to figure out a fair way, and like maybe every other one, you have a Zoom, maybe we find out that it's too hard to get everybody there on time, like if you're not showing up till 1:30,
Right.
and then it's over at 2:30, is that really enough time, is it worthwhile?
If you have it
So-
at Casey's, everybody will be there on time.
Hey!
Just saying. But think outside the box. It'll,
I know, it's
It'll all
gonna be
work.
hot, like,
No, it's gonna
especially
be
with
hard.
our little kids, like, they don't get picked up at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, that's what people were
And then
saying.
you have to like wait for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so I think it'll be more like 1:15 to 2:45 is probably what it's gonna be, because that's when the day ends anyway.
So pre-K dismissal will
sometimes
be at
better
12.
than no time.
Oh.
Yeah, pre-K dismissal will be at 12.
Yeah, because they found out that the reasons one of the buses are late is because when they were at only a half hour, it wasn't enough time. So pre-K is gonna be 12, and K and higher is gonna be 1, so that those transportation vehicles,
Yes.
they found a way to like fix a little bit.
Yeah.
That was a good one. Yeah,
So yeah, interesting.
yeah, so,
About another 30 minutes.
Any other questions? So Sharon can like.
No? Sure.
I mean,
finally
you could
attend
tell
her
people
meeting.
to attend one of the Zooms, yeah.
That's a draft. So
I think it's pretty
is
spot
it
on.
pretty? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have a version of that.
Mhm.
It was given to us as a draft. So.
So it's kind of like 3 rotating, and like
Yeah.
once a quarter, we get together all district at like Somerville High Auditorium, or, wherever we are.
Okay.
We'll see.
Thank you.
Yeah, and like if you guys get questions or whatever, whether it's field day or it's just shoot me an email.
Alright.
Yeah.
Can I bring my dog?
Thank you,
To field day?
Shannon.
No dogs on the field.
Whatever. He's trained.
No, you can't. Thank you. So anyway.
I want to bring my dog.
So next we have a quick
Cute.
equity.
All right, good luck,
update.
everybody. I'm gonna
Thank
go
you,
to CPT.
Sharon.
Alright, bye Sharon, thank
Bye
you.
bye. Thank you.
So we have our equity update by Matthew, who's also missing his meeting.
Yeah.
You will be there after.
So we did our school project. I took pictures of most projects. I'm missing a few, but I'm going to forward them on to Kaylee. That was our year-long project. Honestly, I hope it went well.
And can you forward those pictures to me so I can prepare like a slideshow for the newsletter?
So hopefully your teams like this kind of project. I don't know if you want to do something for next year, but that could be a next year topic.
Yes. We'll decide on next year's.
And then our equity team, we are drafting a way to utilize those two books, the My Princess Boy and Julian is a Mermaid. So as long as it just happens at a story time and like a discussion or whatnot, we'll have like guiding questions or like ways to adapt. So that will be coming to you very soon. So hopefully get your thoughts.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
So this was actually, I was on the Somerville Community website Facebook page, and people were talking about rainbow flags in all the buildings, and I know that we only do that in June. Is that something that we only have the flag up in June?
People were
At the high
asking
school?
why.
Well, people were asking do we is there a way to have more of them? And
So
again, this was just
was
from
the concern
Facebook,
that,
but
that it was before June or that they
that
wanted
it was
more?
only in June, right? And
Okay,
that
wanted it,
just visibility.
Oh.
And I just don't know if that's something that you guys can.
You
Or
can-
you could just go upstairs and ask.
Yeah, you
Oh,
can. Once
there
you go
you
upstairs,
go.
question number 1 will be that.
Matthew will ask.
Okay, so I get the question out because I thought they were asking. So there was no concerns.
I
They
mean,
just
there
wanted
will
more.
always be those people, but
Of
I think
course.
that Somerville has already kind of answered
Those
that with we're going to put the flag up. But this
Right.
was just about why are we only doing this in June? Our kids aren't just gay in June, right? And I was like,
I mean,
that is true.
Yeah, but we don't see that here. But in the high school, they have like the constant like clubs or
No, and they have,
Like
but I'm saying, but we don't
like
have,
these things.
but that's not visible. And we have trans students. We have had trans students, and I'm
Uh-huh,
sure we do have
yeah.
trans students. So I think that, and we have gay families. So I just think that it was just more of like a, why are we only doing this in June? That just feels to be like we're just showboating. And I was like, that's a really good point. So
That is good.
for you.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Here you go, write it down. Anything else?
I think that is it.
Good, thank you. Teacher talks. Any feedback about teacher talks? Yesterday? Did you hear anything? I didn't get complaints. I remember last year like a lot of people calling me like from other schools. I cannot connect. Yesterday there was only the one
So-
person who connected. Did you get all your appointments with you?
I did. Amanda couldn't get on, so she just came down and talked to me.
Okay.
I think because the problem is since we couldn't use Zoom, I know we'd have to shut it down, and like if you were in the middle of someone, you got shut off, whatever. So you don't have the time.
It's only 40 minutes.
But I don't really know. I don't know that. Like you helped me with that. Thank you. And then I got it open, and then Amanda was calling me on the phone, and she's like, "How does it?" I'm like, "I have no idea. Just come down the hall, because I don't know what to do with
I
it."
think we have to make sure that everybody has Teams on the laptops because that's the platform that the
Yeah.
city is using.
Maybe
now.
we just need like
Teams.
a little
Maybe a Teams training
a
because I
training.
did have
yeah.
to.
He had to come.
Feel
Yeah,
a lot
Teams
of
is not
Teams
very
questions.
user friendly. I'm gonna say,
No.
and I am technology
It's not
oriented. No, it's not very. I have to like look at it and be like, once you get it, it's easy to navigate. But at first, so yeah, I think maybe I will send an email to John Bresson, maybe Manny, maybe he can give us like a quick.
Yeah. Or even like one of the first days if we're gonna use it all the time.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to
that
use
will be
it
something for the
today.
first 2 orientation days.
Yeah.
Because
Because I couldn't even
Yeah.
answer Amanda's questions. I'm like, just hang up the phone. and
have
come
like a
down.
Teams
I don't
training
know what you're talking about.
embedded on those first 2 orientation days.
I had a question about teacher talks. I know that I've done this in other buildings, but I think there should also be a day once they're all done to then meet with the counselors about certain kids that are going into certain rooms. You know what I mean? To have a day of now you know who you're getting. Now go find out who you're really getting. You know what I mean? And what interventions have worked and haven't worked. Yes,
I know
because
that
I
usually-
felt like yesterday there was little to zero involvement for me, and or Christiana and Dina were all kind of talking about like that piece was missing, and I do think that there are a handful of kids in pre-K who need to come with that disclaimer.
But I don't know if that
It's okay.
could be used during the teacher talks time, but it definitely.
That's what I'm
because
saying.
we're
I don't
already,
think it
like,
can
booked.
be,
Yeah,
and I don't think it should be. I don't think it
but we
I don't
do
think it's
need a way to.
responsible. Yeah, but we do need a way to
yes.
have that kind of conversation
that-
happen.
Like a
That
counselor
is in-
talks.
Yeah, no, legit.
Right? Isn't there one of the columns in that spreadsheet that says something about counselor or something like that? Or supports?
Just so-
Right, and
Support.
usually in supports, I remember when I used to do that, they would put like, he sees the counselor, and then teachers knew to reach out.
But that's what I'm saying. But so like, but if we have that already
Like
kind of
established.
established, and
Mhm.
granted, you might have some kid that doesn't have supports, but there's some anecdotal like, I hear so and so screaming every day at noon. What's that about? You know, or just like the teachers
Mhm.
being able to like,
Yeah.
or I'm sure somebody or if you spoke to Julie and said like, hey, you might want to talk to Christiana about so and so. This is something that's a thing, but they don't have any thing built in. Like, I think it would just be a way to.
So there would be like counselors having like
Counselor
the caseload that of the students they have seen, then the schools they're going to, and then have an opportunity to connect to those teachers. Is that something that you're thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like a rough idea, but I just think that the kids who are getting counseling supports should have a counselor talk to their next teacher about what that kiddo needs specifically for either
Or will the
transitioning or.
counselor talk to the counselor? Like
Well,
if they're going to another
both.
school.
I would think both. I think that would be maybe like a three-way.
So I wonder then.
Because I've definitely called counselors and said, hey, heads up, this is what works in therapy, but also, or in counseling, but then also to other teachers, like, so-and-so really hates loud noises, like, so just
Yeah.
a forewarning.
I know Christiana asked me for the list of the kids where the schools they were going, and I provided it to her. I
Yeah.
think that's what she's
Yeah.
thinking, like
I-
to call the ones.
I was just checking my sheet and I did write in supports for success, like a number of kids with IEPs. I did write social group with counselor educator.
Okay, yeah.
So
So then I wonder for next year then should we just have I think we should just have counselors sign up during the teacher talk if there's a free block of time.
But what I'm saying is, like, I don't know that that's.
There's not really enough time.
But
Yeah,
there-
so I don't think
some
there's enough
schools are just
time.
We didn't get to speak to
And
anybody.
I don't
Right.
think it's like I don't think it's a good idea, number one, for confidentiality, like, oh no, because you guys do it one-on-one.
It's a one-on-one,
It's
it's
one-on-one,
a
never mind.
Yeah.
We used to do it in a whole group. Yeah, I don't know if they're,
Or like during that time make it explicit like on the PD schedule to have okay counselors this is your time to chat with other counselors.
or could counselors have their own link?
Yes,
And
same
then
with
teachers, if they want to join in.
Oh, that
and-
is
what do you
true.
call it like with OT,
Yes,
speech.
yes,
I think
just like that, I
that's,
think counselors should
Yeah.
have, yes.
because
But
do
I
they
don't-
have to state that? Maybe?
Yeah,
So
everyone
then,
has
yeah,
to say.
then,
But
they
you're
might
just
as
like, yeah.
you know I'm just gonna
So
I
add
think
that
that
because
would
that's a good
work.
idea.
Okay.
Because the people you, so say it's pre-K talking to K teachers, the people that you need to talk to are the K teachers, but we are so
But
busy.
you guys are already
Yeah, you guys are
counseling,
already-
right,
There's no
right.
time. Like I didn't even hear, we didn't hear from any outside school, any
I don't
outside.
think we have many
There was only
outside
two, but they didn't sign up. So it's like, we didn't even hear about all our kids and we were.
Right.
But I think there's a dedicated space for counselors
Yeah.
to talk to other counselors,
I
right?
think that's a good idea.
Like let's say Christiana connects with Carly, she tells her everything that they have, and then Carly,
Right.
then that counselor's responsibility is to communicate that to the teachers from their school.
Right, right. And because is transition day a thing? Is that not happening anymore? I think that's crazy.
It's a disgrace.
It's a disgrace. It really is. And I think it's so important to have.
Yes.
It is.
Not only for the kids, but I can think of 5 kids off the top of my head that are going to lose it when they walk into a new space.
So
and didn't
we're going to
that.
have the same thing that we did last year.
Yeah.
We're going to organize a little bit better than last year because last year we did it like as a
Yeah, but that was like Lauren and I volunteered to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The district has taken it away.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So anyway, we will do it with the kids that are coming here again. Yesterday we had a lot of kids, you know, most of the
Last
time.
week.
So
Last
then
year,
I'm wondering,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm just like stuck on this. I'm wondering then if we could use like if the counselors are directed like, hey, listen, for this, I don't know how this works with union garbage craziness, but I don't mean garbage, but if sorry, because I just don't ever understand any of that stuff. But if counselors said, hey, this on this day during a prep time that's not a slotted CPT or whatever, we're available to talk about your incoming kindergartners. And like just have that if they chose to come, whatever, but then the
Yeah.
counselors would be told like, hey, your day is X, that's what you're doing that day.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's also.
I
I
think
think that would be helpful because, I mean, talking to the next counselor, obviously let them know what you're
Yeah.
working on.
But we usually do that anyways on our
Yeah,
own, like if I know
but
a kid is
letting
going
like
over, but
the
the
kindergarten teachers.
Yeah.
So this situation kind of came up yesterday. So when we talked to the first grade teachers at the East, we said like, oh, these two, they cannot be in the same
Right,
class,
right.
right? Or like Lauren and I know each other's kids, so I was like, oh, my A can't be with your B.
right,
like,
right.
So actually when somebody came to me yesterday, I said, do you know of anyone in the other classes that your child, with this particular child, would not work well with, like from another class? And they're like, oh, we don't know the other classes. But if you guys took kids in a social group and you're like, this social group is great, they
Right.
both need the supports, they both have the same
Right.
supports.
Right.
Or maybe you
right.
take a couple kids for a lunch bunch and you're like, holy
Yeah.
crap, this is not working.
Yeah.
Then you could tell us like, these two are oil and vinegar, like don't put them in the same class.
Mhm.
Like that would be very
Well, when I was
helpful.
in Arlington, we used to do, it was awesome. It would be, I was a social worker, and then with every level group, so say it was like third going to fourth, we'd have the third grade teachers and the fourth grade teachers, and we would put sticky notes with all the kids' names on them, and they would lay out their plan, and then I as a social worker would be like, nope,
No.
nope,
that's
you know,
okay.
and then
Yeah,
we
yeah.
would adjust as we went, and that way the classes were
So
more
I know different
cohesive.
in the when I used to be at the East, they did something similar to
Yeah.
that. Like the two grades would get together and they would discuss all the
Yeah.
students, and they would definitely make like two lists, like
Yeah.
list A and B, like kids that definitely needed to be separate. So they kind of they have that idea.
Well,
Okay.
maybe you guys could come when we make the lists here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because
we
Megan comes too and lets us know like who else is celebrating.
we have to have our meeting soon.
But as far as the other grades, maybe you could do like an open office hour.
Yeah.
Where you like unavailable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can do that for me. I can talk, and I'll talk to Dina and Christiana too.
Okay. So let's move on.
Yes.
The discussion now, I think we're running short of time because this is at least 30 minutes and it's already 3:35. So I think we're going to do like a version of this. Everybody has the protocol, right? Did you get the protocol from over there? Is the one save the last word for me? It's usually a group of 4, but if we do it as a whole group, and then what we'll do, each person will have a moment to say a portion of the reading that caught your attention,
Okay.
and then a couple of people can react to that, and then you will say why you chose it, and then that's like a modification of save the last word for me, just to make sure, so we can respect the time. If you already know, or if you want like a couple of minutes to go over the reading, I already have my area highlighted. Do you have the reading, Andy? Oh, you have it there in the. Look at you, how fancy. So I'm going to start with the portion. So I will tell you the page and the paragraph so you can read it. Mine is on page 43. That last paragraph where it says leaders. The last paragraph on the left side, right? The left column. It says leaders can also influence all the way until the next column where it says necessary. So that's my block. So I'm gonna give you 1 minute so you can read it, and then you can. Somebody can say what do you think about that? Okay, if somebody wants to react to, like, what do you think when you
I think what popped out for me was kind of the latter part of this section, where it said the emphasis should be on identifying student learning needs and detecting problems and making adjustments as necessary. And I guess I was just thinking about year to year how the student learning needs are always very different in I don't know if it's across the district, but I just think of pre-kindergarten and how each meeting our goals change. Every year our goals change to meet the needs of this group of students. And it kind of makes me think like, I feel like we're on the right track as a team. But then I also wonder like, what else could we do?
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of the things that jumped out for me is the teachers need to see how collecting evidence fits into their daily routines, how they can use daily evidence to determine impact, how they can make adjustments to their classroom practices when results aren't demonstrating increases to student outcomes. So this one I feel like doesn't also address kind of the fact that we have such, I think, growing need. And I think that while I've seen live teachers trying to adjust their practice, it doesn't, and then I don't think it gives room for the practice to take the change before the evidence is required to be given, right? And so I think that the trust that this is also talking about, that intrinsic trust, comes from administration believing that their teachers are doing what they need to do for their classroom. And so for me, I think that there needs to be emphasis on what can the leaders do to support the teachers to make those adjustments, and that it makes me kind of sad as a parent to think that that's all that's being looked for, is like evidence of like outcome instead of are the kids learning, are the kids growing, and that's not going to be I think directly reflected in any data. I think that's more anecdotal, that's more the classroom thriving as a social emotional group. And so I think that there needs to be a little bit more emphasis on, are we seeing change happen, not just what are the results.
Anything else?
That actually, the sentence, the emphasis should be on identifying student learning. I was sort of like, okay, what do I think about this? But then when Matthew said that sentence, I was like, yeah, but we're not talking about like the growth and what they have learned. Like just thinking yesterday when I talked to all the preschool teachers, they're like, wow, he knows this many numbers or this many letters, but like he didn't know any at the beginning. And it's like, when you look at the end product,
Right.
it doesn't look that great.
Right.
But they weren't speaking, they weren't talking.
Right.
Now it's like they know
Right.
this many, so it's like that should be celebrated.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Yeah.
That's important too.
I think sort of building off of what Angie said, like especially for our age level in this building, that it's the social emotional development has to be the key measure of progress. You know, somebody who 2 weeks ago was just throwing a car down the slide on the playground, if they've made progress, you know, progress is like running around with the other kids instead of doing that, you know, doing that. And so I think that that has to be those anecdotal things, the you know, joining in play with a peer kind of things. I think those have to take, that's progress. That's
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning of a student's tenure with us. That's a high expectation sometimes, to be able to play with other people.
Yeah. So that's what caught my attention here, is that it says, when it says leaders, I didn't think about only me or AP. I thought about leaders of each of the groups, right? So how is it that all the leaders need to build like that trusting relationship with their team, so they know that, you know, whatever happens there, not that stays there, but what happens there is going to be like looked at by the team. There's no judgment. Everybody will be working on things. And following up on what Matthew said, it is like looking at their learning, and it's never going to be the same. So part of that trust relationship building in the group is that you have to have that idea in order to create buy-in into the team, that not 2 years solutions are going to be equal or going to work the same. So maybe something that worked excellently this year, next year won't work at all, right? So that's one of the things. And also, connecting to what Angie said, that's why when I created my tier 2 spreadsheets to follow up student progress, I didn't limit myself to academics. I also included the SEL data. And some of the students are like all green on their academics, they know their letters and everything, but then they're yellow and red in social emotional. So recognizing the importance of this building, of how is it that social emotional aspect is so important. So that's why that's something that we need to communicate when we are working on our teams, that we're working to improve student as a whole, which includes academic and curricular stuff, but also like social emotional. So that was why that section caught my attention. Who wants to be next? With an area that popped up for you when you read it.
I can go next. So this was more on the factors influencing student achievement. So, and the only reason why I did is I just did a huge project, like PowerPoint on this for.
First, you say what is it?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's the parental involvement part, and it kind of, like I said, grabbed me because I just did a huge project on this for this leadership thing I'm in, and it's actually a lot.
Are you explaining why you picked it up?
I'm explaining why I picked it up. Yeah.
No,
Can you
because
tell us
that's why you had to say the last word for you. So you say what you picked up. Now we look at it.
Oh, okay. I was impacted by the parental
Do
involvement.
not say why. So this is so just is this the table or anything
Yes,
else?
I was impacted by the
Okay, so let's look at the table for a minute.
Okay,
So, I
so
mean,
the table
but-
you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Okay,
table on
the
page
factors
43,
influencing-
right? Is that page 43?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's my bad. I do think there was another place that was in the article as well, but it wasn't like part.
I can go first to see. So when I look at this, I used to be in a pre-K through 8 building. So I see stuff like homework, 0.29, the factor, right? Or motivation, even parental involvement, 0.49. But then collective teacher efficacy, 1.57, right? So, and I've heard some, other places, like people blaming, oh, it's because they're not doing their homework, so that's why they're not getting better, stuff like that, right? So in reality, those, according to what I see here, those are factors that have less effect in student achievement. That's how I read it. So that caught my attention. And it's collective. It's not like one teacher's job. It's like a collective, the work of the group of teachers. Okay. If anybody else wants to say something?
It was pretty wild to me that that's the top measure of progress and achievement.
It's not even close to anything.
Yeah.
There's like a big gap between that and the next one.
I mean, Angie started talking about parental involvement. I know we're not supposed to talk about that. Angie started talking about parental involvement and the fact that parental involvement is even behind prior achievement and socioeconomic status. It's kind of wild.
Makes me wonder a little bit. Yeah. At least for us here, we know that parental involvement is so important, right?
Yeah.
Maybe for time's sake, now you can say.
So it just made me like kind of pause for a minute. Like Jane pointed out, like it's not even like one of the top things. However, it is like dead middle, and I think that I would be interested. I've read a ton of articles and like a whole bunch of data that actually said that it was more important than this, and I think that's why I was drawn to it. Because I'm like, that's not what I've read like anywhere. And parental involvement really does have a lot more to do with student success, and so I wonder where this happened, right? Like, was this study a very kind of like homogenous town where like there weren't socioeconomic factors, or there weren't other, you know, other kind of factors or other things like that? But I digress. Because I think that not only is parent involvement really important, but parent mental health is really important, and it's something we don't talk about enough. And the way that we communicate with parents, and the way that we at the Capuano are a lot of parents' first introduction into their relationship with school, and we have an opportunity to either make it a really strong bond or to mess it up. And I think, right, like first thought, best thought, like if your relationship with us potentially is not a good one, then that leaves all the other schools having to kind of work double time to make sure that they can make up for it, or you just have a really crappy relationship with the school. And what I've read is that the relationship between school and home for the child, because like, you know, even as teachers, we are very separate, right? Like school is our work, and then we go home. For parents, right, their kids go to school and then they come home. But for kids, they're just sponges soaking up all of it. It is an amalgamation for them. So there is no separation of school and home for them, just they're different places. And I think that when we think about kids in that aspect, that like their world is one world, just because it's separate for us doesn't mean it is. And so, you know, it's almost like if you have like divorced parents, if they're not on the same page, like your kiddo is gonna be very torn. So I was surprised that it was so low, and kind of wishing that it spoke a little bit more about it.
I don't understand, how did we get this information?
Yeah,
Well, that was also
Like, what is effect size?
like I don't see
Like,
like
number of
it
people
says the
that they
source
have,
is
like, what is
yeah,
this?
but it doesn't
Yeah.
say
Very
like
busy.
what it says. The source is the author, but it doesn't say. Yeah, I would like to see like the
Doesn't say
research
what
that
the-
led
Right, what
to
was the
these-
methodology to get there?
Yeah.
Yes, I was a psych
and-
major, and we
and
did
the
psych
audience-
classes.
Right,
There's
right.
flaws, and
Right.
the article's about collective teacher
Right.
efficacy. And
So
there it
surprise,
is,
you
it's
use a
wrong.
study that supports, right.
Right.
It looks like it's 2018.
What did they do?
And
Yeah,
it was prior to
mindfulness.
COVID.
Surveys,
Right,
like,
so
what did they
anything
do?
prior to COVID, honestly, like any
Yeah.
research prior to COVID with
Right.
schools, I'm just like, don't even come at me with
That's
that
awesome.
because everything
With
has
the same-
changed.
Everything
Yeah.
after COVID is
Everything
like
has
totally
changed.
different.
No, where it was referenced. So
Oh, the
it
reference,
said
yeah.
it's source John Hattie. So I
Oh,
looked at it.
Oh, he's in New Zealand.
Oh, well, then of course it's,
Oh,
look at that.
Cross
okay.
this out, rip that page out.
Yeah.
New Zealand before the pandemic.
Yeah, John Hattie did a lot of research.
Well, John Ratty also did a lot of research, and I almost confused the two.
This is Hattie.
John Ratty is a child psychologist, pediatrician, who does a ton of research on this stuff too. So I was like, is that? And it's not. This is somebody else.
What's the last name of your John?
John Ratty.
Oh, Ratty.
Yeah.
They're similar, not the
He
same.
wrote that book, Spark. It's really good.
Oh, okay. Okay. So one more person, I think we'll have maybe one or two depending on the discussion. So who's willing to go next?
I can share mine.
Yeah.
Are you staring at me to?
No, I was staring in your direction.
Oh, okay. So mine's right after Felix's. So it's on page 43, in the middle paragraph, and it starts when leaders ensure that dependable high trust,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, good mind.
and I ended it at understandings. So quick
Oh, okay,
little
that,
sentence.
yeah. I think this is what I was thinking about when I proposed starting doing PLCs by grade levels, because when I saw the CFL, Conditions for Learning survey, that percentage of people that thought that they didn't have enough time to collaborate, which I knew because I always heard the complaint, was very high, that not enough time to collaborate, which changed the year after. And it was having this into mind. It's like making sure that within the teachers there's like leaders, not only the one who runs the meeting, but also the others become leaders in being able to build structures in which they can collaborate and improve their practice, right? So that was like my way of thinking over there, which I've seen like in some of the PLCs have been there, and some other teachers are making presentations about things they do in their classroom. So that was like my main purpose. That without that structure of the PLC, they wouldn't have time to share that probably. Because when you have your grade level meetings, you have to talk about other logistics stuff, not like practice. So that was what I thought.
I think the more that I think about leadership and leadership roles, the more and more I think that we pigeonhole, and that every single person has an expertise, regardless of what table you're sitting at. And so when we identify one person as a leader, I think we do a disservice to the team as a whole. And I think we take away from the fact that every single person sitting at that table could be a leader in one facet. So I think whenever we put together collaborative structures, I'll just use that word, whenever we put collaborative structures, I think we need to identify each person as a leader and not as, and as a meaningful partner. I think that's how you build trust, is by trusting that everybody who have at the table is an expert in whatever it is they're talking about. What was I going to say? Hold on, I was doing one more thing. And that the teachers learn from one another, and I think that's how they do it, right? If like we're sitting at a table and I need to know about, I don't know, something specific, right? Like, I don't know, Matthew, tell me something you're really good at.
Teacher student spent learning.
Okay, perfect, right? So like if I needed to be like, oh crap, like I really want to do this thing, like Matthew would then now be a leader to me, and I think that if we're able to identify but also advocate for our kind of selves, then we can create a building that isn't a hierarchy, because I think that like that idea is just not.
Yeah, I think we call it leader, but the word I think mostly is like a facilitator of the team.
Yeah, no, I hear that. Yeah,
Like
absolutely. I'm not
in
trying to say that wasn't the right word to use. I'm just saying I think that when you have if you want to create a collaborative structure, then it's not hierarchical.
Yeah, it can be like even if they call it leader, everybody should understand that they are leaders in their own way.
But I don't think they do, and I think that that's really important.
Well, that's what I try to do with this PDs, when all the experts that we use are people from the building, because we have the experts in the building. I don't need to go and hire someone to talk to me about SLP when I have two, right, 3, 4 SLPs here in this building that can do that presentation just as well as someone that's not going to charge me thousands of dollars to do that. So I think that's something that I've been trying to. And when I framed the PD, which one was it? The March 27th. Yeah, when I framed that PD, that was my intention to, and I said it. I was like, everybody here is an expert in your own area, so so we can use all those tools to put them together for people that are not, So I'm not expert in AAC devices, but then when I observe the SLP working, I can understand more things, right? So that's We have a couple of minutes. Who wants to say something more about the reading that Matthew? Or how about this, Jane? What was the area that you?
Mine was page 44. About halfway down the first column.
Mm-hmm.
Is about school narrative. If instead the narrative is about high expectations, growth in relation to inputs, what it means to be a good learner in various subjects, and what impact means, then teachers and students will think about learning in a different way.
It's
Yeah.
around here in the page.
Yeah, it's
What does it start with
the
again?
middle. But if
Oh,
it's
but yeah, I got
dead,
it. Okay, thank you.
I like that it uses the word growth. Like what Julie was saying, like sometimes when we see the final, sometimes somebody ends in red, right? Like in the letter naming, somebody ends in red, but then when you say they had 0 and they ended up with 12. So, you know, in a year they were able to learn 12 letters that they did not know. So at least we can recognize that growth. And that's something when I presented to the school improvement, you know, the school committee, I made an emphasis on explaining about the growth, that's something that we look at. Because sometimes kids, even after the pandemic, they start like lower than they were supposed to. So that's what I like about that. That it talks about the high expectations, but also talks about the growth. How about you, Julie? What was the reading that the area?
Okay, 43, resetting the narrative. Team members' confidence in each other's abilities and the belief in the impact of the team's work are key elements that set successful school teams apart.
Any reaction to that?
I mean, it just makes me think that whenever you build a strong team, you're gonna have strong, like communities. You know, like your kids are gonna believe in you, you're gonna believe in your teachers, your other teachers. So I think I absolutely agree with that. I think it's hard to create that. I think it's a very difficult task.
But what I like is the final result of that process.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, when we were like, and when you teach older kids, if you stand up in front of a group of kids and you're not ready, you have lesson plan prepared, they will figure you out. They'll be like, no. And, you know, even the little ones, they can sense if you're trying to wing it. Let's be honest, right? So I think by having these teams building up, you know, the trust on what we're doing in the classrooms, that will help every single person be a leader on their own, like Angie says, right? And then every person will be prepared when they come in front of the class, and they will have all those tools that otherwise you wouldn't have, because you know, when we come to these PLC meetings, you hear all the ideas from 6 teachers at least, right? Or 5 in your case. So you have other ideas that you wouldn't have if you were, you know, isolated in your room. So that's the importance of the collaboration. Okay, so that's more or less, you know, with bet more time, I would have divided this group in 2, and then we would have like in half an hour more time to talk. But this is the idea. My idea is that I would like the teams to bring this reading to their PLCs at some, you know, maybe for the last one, so you could talk about it, kind of a reflection. And then I put a copy of these, because then I'm going to, this is like an evaluation of the teams. You can get a copy over there, Ruben. Can you give one to? So this is a Google form, but I did obviously a copy so we could see. This is like a self-evaluation form for a team, right? So after you do that reading as a group, this could be like too close. You would do your self-evaluation for the year, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to put these together in a spreadsheet that I have, and then that will be something that will start with ILT. When we start looking at these teams, like to see areas that can be worked on with specific teams. This is the way teams self-evaluate themselves, and the areas are like the meeting frequency, but who facilitates, who sets the agenda, purpose and goals of the team, tasks, bodies of work, specific tasks related to improving instruction, and then like a final evaluation of how do you think the overall effectiveness of the team, right? And then remember that I gave you that template of the agenda the other time.
Mhm.
So hopefully next year when we have our team meetings, we'll still have the floating agenda, but I would like to make sure that each team has the elements of those in each of their agenda, like next steps. Which I know some of our floating meetings they do have that, like we always put like next steps and stuff like that. But I would like those to be like a permanent part of that agenda. And we always, always make sure that we assign tasks to specific people so we can follow up on the next meetings. And that's it. And I think that bit by bit we'll be able to build more effective teams, right? In which we can make more efficient use of the time.
So you're gonna send this out, or we send, like, am I sending?
No, I'm going to share with each of the PLC leaders,
Yeah.
right? And then you can explain to Jackie about it. And then they will have, like, they can post it and then somebody will record the answers and then each team will submit one.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I thought that
So that will be like the team response.
okay.
And then so I will end up with 4 forms. And then I will put all the information together in one document. Any questions?
Anything about the Bubble Fest days, or just
Oh, yeah,
or just
so-
the dates are there?
So I just put that so people
Okay.
can have the dates,
Okay.
the upcoming activities. We're closing the year, other than the field days, not the field days, the field trips that everybody has.
When are the
Um,
pictures?
The field trips, I don't have all the dates in my
Okay,
mind.
that's fine.
But Kristen, they're in the school calendar and they're all approved by the nurse and I signed them.
Sweet.
But the bubble fest, and some of the field trips will be also in the building, like
Yeah.
field
Yeah,
restrictions.
when are the puppies coming?
ECIP's got
Oh,
Curious
puppies?
Creatures, but
Yeah, the baby
Oh,
animals
yeah,
are
Curious
coming.
Creatures
but
will be coming.
Barnyard, I don't know what
No, barnyard animals, not the curious
Yeah.
creatures are like
They're
slimy
creepy.
things. No,
The
I want to play with
barnyard-
the baby pigs.
The barnyard
They're
babies are
creepy.
coming for
Some of
a
them.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure when.
Okay.
I want them to bring a hedgehog.
Ah.
though.
My
Because
friend
every
has
year he's
28
like-
hedgehogs.
They're like, oh yeah, we'll bring the hedgehog on whatever day. They never.
Anyway, so I put the dates of the bubble fest because I remember the other time we were trying to figure out and we didn't remember the dates. So all the dates are there. Some of them have rain dates, but I only put the official dates.
That's fine.
Okay?
Hopefully it doesn't rain.
So thank you very much.
I did Curious Creatures for my son's birthday, and there was a 200
yeah.
pound
Oh,
python on
last
my
time they
living
did the
room
barnyard
table.
baby-
I was like,
when they did the
"Wow."
barnyard
put it
babies,
on
I
I-
didn't put it on it. I was like, do not come near me with that.
when they did the barnyard babies here, I had personal day,
Oh,
so I
you
missed
did-
it.
There were baby pigs.
I was so upset.
I was
Oh,
in the
they're so
pen with the
cute.
baby pigs.